Hey, what's up, everybody? BD44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm listening to Tim Legler talk about the LA Clippers, and they're mentioning how Kawhi could be back for the first round. As we've mentioned in the past, I felt like the Clippers were kind of playing it kind of, safe in terms of their superstars, bringing them back slowly, having them ready for the playoffs. So this is pretty much what I kind of expected. Kawhi's been dealing with the injury all year long, so, you know, figured maybe he'd be back for the playoffs, depending on how well the team does. He would work his way back. And then, nobody's talking about this and nobody's really looking at it this way, but I'm looking at it like this. Kawhi Leonard is the other half of what it is that makes the Clippers special. But I'm looking at the Los Angeles Clippers and I'm seeing they're finding players everywhere. You got Kwahi right here. He found Man. Now he's stepping into his own. You got Kennard stepping into his own. You got all these different players that are starting to step up. Um, then I look at Paul George. He's playing great. This team is gonna go as far as their stars take them, and Paul George represents only half of that. They lost yesterday. The Timberwolves got them. Obviously, Patrick Beverley in his game. Everybody's making fun of them and how they would how they were jumping on the stanchions and taking their shirts off and celebrating like they won a championship. But the reality is they won a game that most people probably thought they wouldn't win. And I think the reason why they won that game is because Kawhi Leonard wasn't on the floor. I think if they had their full team out there, I don't think they'd even be in the play-in tournament. I think the Clippers are probably looking at a top 4 seed in the Western Conference if Kawhi Leonard's healthy. And you see the history of Kawhi Leonard. You look at all the injury issues that are going on with the Lakers in terms of Anthony Davis. You see what we're going through here down the hall. And you start to wonder, at what point in time do the Clippers start to think about what life is like without Kawhi Leonard? Now, I know he put this team together. This is his, a concoction. It's built around him. He wanted Paul George. All of that. I get it. This is centered around him. But just like I say about LeBron James and Anthony Davis with the Lakers, Kawhi Leonard can get me a lot. When I say a lot, a lot. Now, I'm not saying Kawhi Leonard's value is at an all-time high or anything. You haven't seen him in a year, but I think that's what you sign up for when you're signing on to have Kawhi on your team. You know that you're going to have him miss some games with injury, and if the injury is somewhat serious, he's going to take more time than maybe you would like him to take. That's how he approaches, and he does it his way. But I'm looking at his contract. I'm looking at the Clippers situation. I'm looking at how many years now that this is year 3. How much time he's actually been on the floor for the Clippers. And I'm just saying to myself, does his value go up from here? Yeah, you can get him back. So, of course, it will make a jump. But what I'm saying is, if it's a trajectory of like a stock, is this going to be like a bull trap where you bring him back, he plays really well and gets hurt again and is out for another year? At some point in time, I'm going to start looking at the landscape of the league and realizing I too am getting older as a team as it pertains to these stars. And I do have a young core that I can build around and focus on with Paul George. That's a playoff team without Kawhi Leonard. But if you bring in the requisite amount of value that Kawhi represents, you can be as good as a champion. And that is where I'm at. I don't know, because I look at Kawhi Leonard and I say he's a very unique and very special talent who is going to win games no matter where he's at, who's going to be a catalyst for success no matter where he goes, just like LeBron James. So you don't want to undervalue what a player like that can do. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, how long is he going to play? Given how careful he is about handling injuries, how much basketball is he going to play for the rest of his career? Those questions, I don't have good answers for those questions. I don't have positive projections for those questions based on the history. So if I'm the Clippers, if Kawhi Leonard comes back in this playoffs and if he's able to return and they ball out, we forget all about this conversation, because chances are he comes back healthy, starts the season healthy, and they're right back to where they need to be. But if he don't come back in these playoffs and this team gets knocked off in the play-in tournament, I'm considering what Kawhi Leonard's value can represent for me in a trade. I'm not saying I'm going to just pull the trigger, but what I'm saying is I'm going to start thinking it's probably in my best interest to consider doing so. Because at this point, he, like Anthony Davis, like others who are injury prone, are not reliable. And we've known this about Kawhi Leonard for many years. This is not a new thought. But I don't think anybody had the thought in their head to trade him. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, let's consider trading Kwahi Leonard," because of who he is or what he represents. But I'm saying now, years are starting to pass. He's getting older. He's in his 30s now. And while we know a player in their 30s can give you fantastic production, is he going to provide the production that his trade value can get you? Is he going to be, like in my mind, Kwahi Leonard can get me a Jaylen Brown and some picks. Kwahi Leonard can get me a young player. Like, you're gonna give up something for Kwahi Leonard. Like, you may give me the first pick in the draft and some compensation with that for Kwahi Leonard. Like, he's a real asset. Even half-mass, even missing years at a time, you still look at him as somebody who's going to make me a championship caliber team. So I'm going to want a championship caliber return. Maybe I get it, maybe I don't, depending on the GM, but somebody's going to do something great in return for Kwahi Leonard. That's something I believe is going to be the case if they shop him. So, yeah, because I look at yesterday's game and I'm saying, so you're telling me if this was a 7-game series, he may have played? But he ain't played all season, but he was good enough to play yesterday. In theory, maybe definitely good enough to play next week. I'm paying you too much money. You represent too much importance for me. If I'm Ballmer for this, I'm just keeping it real. And I like Kwahi. I rooted for him in Toronto. I think he's one of the greatest players to ever do it. Honestly, I really do. But his availability is not reliable. Just like Anthony Davis, if not worse. If not worse. And nobody talks about trading him. It never comes up. And I just think it's time to. It's literally time to. Because the Clippers are in a position to where they gotta take advantage of prime Paul George. Although that wasn't the thought. Paul George is supposed to be the complimentary guy. Now you can clearly see he's the one that they need to be focusing on, because Kawhi is not able to be there consistently. And Paul George showed up great last night. You know, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league at the end of the day. It's not about what I know you've done historically. Because even though you could be a great historical player, you saw what the Lakers have. A bunch of great historical players who can do but so much right now. And that's what you ask yourself. How much can Kawhi do for me right now? I look at Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's rounding back into form. Maybe that makes me feel much better about Kawhi Leonard in terms of, okay, he can come back after 2 years, look great. KD did it, etc. Great player is going to be great regardless. However, how much greatness do I get? Will he do it for a year? Will it be a year and a half? When is the next big injury coming with Kawhi? And when it comes, do I just write him off as out for a year and a half? This GM here, I'm not signing up for that. I love what he brings to the table, and when he's out there, we can win. But when he's not out there, we gonna lose. And that is what the Clippers are dealing with. They had no business losing that game last night. Not with Kwahi Leonard making as much money as he's making on that bench all year long, sitting, and it's fine. And it's time to start having that conversation. So that's what I got, man. That's what I got. Like I said, if he comes back, balls out, they go off and win, get to the Western Conference Finals or something like that, for this conversation doesn't even matter. But if he's still nursing an injury to start the season next year, y'all need to trade this man. Straight up. No more of this. No more of this. We're going to talk about Anthony Davis being brittle. It's time to start talking about the claw. Because this has been going on for how many years it is? You talk about Porzingis. It's time, y'all. My name is BDL44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.